There is a pleasant natural tranquility to a harbor in the morning. Waves casually lap against stoic wooden hulls, gentle breezes flutter nautical flags, and highly polished wood gleams in the rays of the rising sun. This particular peaceful harbor is the Lakewood Yacht Club outside Houston, Texas. And once a year it plays host to an event called Keels and Wheels, where vintage boats and classic cars bask in a nostalgic glow. Today, TopCoat's Magnificent Machines drops anchor and discovers the incredible wonders when wood meets water. Hello and welcome to TopCoat's Magnificent Machines. I'm Dave Dobson, and this weekend we are at the 24th annual Keels and Wheels Concours d'Elegance in Houston, Texas. Now the wheels part of that's all the cars that surround us, hundreds of beautiful automobiles. This weekend though, we're going to talk about the keels part. These are some of the most spectacular boats from the last century that you will ever see. So why not? Let's get started with our first magnificent machine.
It's a 1955 Chris-Craft Cobra, and they only made them for 9 months. They knew that this was a limited Chris-Craft that people would buy, so they only made 108 of them in the two different sizes. Well, I found this boat almost 30 years ago. The bare bones were shown, and I replaced structure, which is ribs, and the bull nose on the boat was rotted, and so it was a full restoration. It couldn't have been in the water until we fixed it. The actual color is not the original color. They used varnish and gold dust to make the golden fin. If they had a drip or something, they had to strip it back down, take that gold back off of it. This is the second time I've had it really at a show, and so it's kind of it's maiden voyage, as they say. And so far everything's great, but the first time we took it out, pulled it off the trailer for a show, the motor seized on me because I didn't restore the motor, and so I had to paddle to the boat show and be in the show, and then paddle back to the ramp and get it back on the trailer. And then we tore the engine down and found out all the problems it had. And now it's a good, strong engine in it. It was a labor of love to restore it, for sure.
If you ask a World War II veteran to name his favorite boat, many will offer the name Higgins. Under the guidance of Andrew Higgins, thousands of PT boats and landing craft were built in New Orleans, and as Dwight Eisenhower stated, Higgins was the man who won the war. Back in civilian life after the war, Higgins turned his skills to pleasure boats, and his creations are proving to be very rare finds today.
This is a 1963 Higgins Mandalay. It is the very last series of pleasure boats that Higgins made. I right now have 19 Higgins boats. I'm lucky enough to stumble in and found this boat in, of all places, out in Colorado, at Boulder, Colorado. Brought it back to Little Rock and restored it, and it's all done original, the way the boat was originally manufactured. Out of all the boats I have, to get them back to the original condition that they were originally made is very important to me, so that the youth of America can see what we had years ago. If I'm on a lake and I pull up to a dock, very slow and very easy, people come out because they want to see a wooden boat. And it just makes you feel real special, because you can have a $100,000 boat pull up that's a new modern boat, and everybody kind of looks at it and goes about their business. But always a wooden boat draws a crowd.
An interesting game to play at any harbor? Search out unusual boat names, and most are a highly personal choice. There's plenty more of the 24th annual Keels and Wheels Concours to come, including a look at the Riva yacht brand. regarded as the Ferrari of boats. TopCoat's magnificent machines will return in a moment.
TopCoat's Magnificent Machines is brought to you by Steel Rubber Products, quality crafted rubber parts and weather stripping. Clamp Tight, the clamp making tool. And by TopCoat, the best coatings in the world.
Welcome back to TopCoat's Magnificent Machines. If you were to ask any pleasure boater who's into high performance to name their favorite prestige brand, well, the name Riva is bound to come up. The Italian company has been building boats since the mid-1800s, and their legacy has become one of luxury, comfort, and elegance.
The boat, the Riva, the name of that comes from the designer is Carlo Riva. There's two boats here, and Carlo Riva, when he came to America, he wanted to introduce his boats in 1959. And these two boats were two of the boats that he brought. And here they came over together, what's that, 60 years or so ago, and here they are reunited again. I'm kind of a Chris-Craft guy, basically, but I went to a boat show in Tavares, Florida, and there was one of these boats there, and so I started looking for one. Well, I found out real quick that they're very expensive, and so the only way I was going to get one was to find a derelict, and there are very few derelict Rivas in the world. And a couple of years later, one showed up here in Houston, of all things, and we bought it, and it was pretty much a pile of rotten wood, and we bought it, and my dad and I spent 5 years rebuilding it. Basically, the wood, to me, is the beauty is what's important, or what appeals to me. And my dad, you know, he was a cabinet maker before I was born, and, you know, we work on it in the evenings and weekends. It's a great experience, yeah, and, you know, I'll hold that, you know, in my heart forever.
Carlo Riva always strove to make his boats the best there were. He is building his boats in northern Italy by Milan. So Milan is the fashion mecca of the world. So that's where he came up with this interior, which was the zebra and turquoise. Turquoise was a big color in the 60s, you know, early 60s, so that's why those colors were chosen. It wasn't very well received, and it kind of infuriated Carlo a little bit. So if you didn't get the zebra, then you would just get a white interior, which he thought, this will take care of those guys. This boat is his flagship model. He made other models, but this particular boat, it's an Italian word, so Tritone is the correct pronunciation. But it was his flagship model, twin engines, of course, 27 feet in length. It has a V-berth. It was designed to go out and have fun on the Mediterranean for the day. This particular boat has 4 beautiful hatch doors that open and close, as you can see, and I have 2 months of my life in those doors to make them fit, look right, and fit beautifully and open and close beautifully. I'm a custodian of this boat. There will be other owners after me, as there has been before me. So it is very important to keep it like it is, and that's the best way to do it.
Keels and Wheels has been around for 24 years, and it was the brainchild of Bob Fuller. Bob, how have you seen it evolve since you started this event?
Well, it's grown. The first year we had 100 cars and 35 boats, and now we average 200 cars and about 85 boats, and that's about as big as we can get.
What kind of experience do you want visitors to get when they come here to see the show?
I want them to be amazed on the car side, amazed at the kind of cars most people have never seen before and the caliber of them. They're all Concours quality cars. And on the boat side, a lot of people have never seen these classic Chris-Craft runabouts. And this year especially, we've got the Italian Rivas, which are just showstoppers.
What's the common thread between folks who own cars like this and folks who own classic boats?
The common thread is excellence. So it's a cross passion, if you will. Everybody, you know, they love what they do with these cars and boats.
A lot of mutual respect.
Yes.
TopCoat F11 is absolutely amazing on boats. F11 is going to provide a layer of protection that's going to be an easy release surface that's going to prevent everything all the way from that algae that you get from fresh water to that tannic acid buildup in the brackish water. And don't forget that super corrosive salt in salt water. F11 is incredible on everything from head to toe of this boat, including the gel coat on this fiberglass, this rubber bumper, and the entire trailer, wheels and tires too. Don't forget about your motor. F11 is going to prevent all kinds of stuff, including oxidation on that plastic, all the way down to that stainless steel prop. Now we've got Jay on the inside. Jay, what are you working on with the F11?
Thanks, Chris. Not only does F11 work awesome on the exterior of the boat, but also the interior surfaces of the boat. From your acrylic windshields, even to your entire dash and instrumentation panel. And what it's going to do for you is protect it against the fading effects of the UV rays. You can see how quick and easy it is to apply, polish, and seal all these surfaces on the dash, from your LCD screens, all the black plastic, chrome, even your vinyl and leather surfaces. Now, I do a lot of fishing up north on Lake Erie, and I will not go out on that lake fishing without protecting my investment with F11. It just makes cleaning it up from fishing all day so much easier. To protect your investment and make it look like this, come visit us at TopCoat.tv.
TopCoat's magnificent machines will return to Keels and Wheels in a moment. We'll take a look at a pair of boats that are survivors. One comes from a major manufacturer started by the first man to go over 100 miles an hour on the water. The other is a design from a smaller boutique builder. His boats were highly coveted in the upper Midwest. Stay tuned. Welcome back to TopCoat's magnificent machines and the 24th annual Keels and Wheels Concours. Some of the best boats here at the show are not in the water, but displayed on trailers. Of course, this offers an excellent chance to study classic woodworking and nautical design. Case in point, this Garwood Ensign fully displays why this brand of boat is coveted and revered, and it has a sister ship with an unusual name dockside.
The wife wasn't necessarily into me buying a boat, didn't understand why I was buying the boat, and until I put her name on the transom. Her last name is No, N-G-O, Vietnamese, and so the transom is No said yes, and that's how she became a fan of the boat, and now she travels to boat shows and likes to get the awards for it. It's a different class of boat. People who know boating see Garwood and they then want to talk about it. It's a 16-foot Ensign. Ensign was made in 1946 and 1947, most popular boat that Garwood made. They stopped making Garwoods in 1947. Let's see, the original engine was a 90 horsepower engine, but whoever upgraded the engine upgraded it with the 115 horse, the identical engine that would have been the upgrade, and it's serial number correct. So somebody took the time to do that. Likely when they bought it, they upgraded it at the same time. This past winter was all about buffing out 12 coats of varnish, and you get a nice sheen to it now. Garwood himself is a very unique individual. Early 1900s, he invented the hydraulic lift and became a wealthy industrialist. His brother ran the company very well, allowed him to be the playboy, fastest man on water at 75 miles, 100 miles an hour. And so kind of a lot of that mystique about the Garwoods. There are not many out there. So if you're going to be a steward of something, pick something that there's few of.
The next magnificent machine in our Texas harbor is from a lesser-known builder. His products are cherished by classic boat aficionados worldwide.
A gentleman named John Hafer built boats back in the 40s and on into the 50s. They're not as widely known as boats like Chris-Craft and Garwood and some others, but he prided himself on building custom boats, and they're well known up in the Iowa area, Great Lakes area, but not so much down here in Texas. The boat evolves from Mr. Hafer, of course, building it. It went to his son and eventually ended up with his grandchildren. And then they donated it to our North Texas Wood Boat Association. The gentlemen and the ladies involved in that, I was going to say restored, but they continued to preserve it. And then my wife Denise and I purchased it about 2 months ago. Preservation means that at least 60% of the boat is as it was when it was originally built. But this boat is almost 100% as it was built in 1948. They're built out of cedar plank, And of course the tops are all mahogany. Wood is a gift of God. It's a gift from God. Just that she exists today is somewhat of a miracle in itself.
Our next boat marries foam core and fiberglass with wood. It's the Boston Whaler, and it was one of the most popular brands of boats in the 1960s. It had the nickname the Unsinkable Legend.
The Boston Whaler line is a legend, unsinkable. No other boats are out here that are similar to that can say that. I acquired it about 1982. It was from a retired naval officer, and he had had a heart attack and couldn't use the boat anymore. Put it up for sale, I answered it. I'll never forget that when he rolled the garage door up and there's all that wood staring at us. I haven't done much to it other than having the wood refinished twice. This last time, the guy who was refinishing it tried to steal the boat, and I had to track him down, and he had all the wood taken apart and in a pile sitting outside exposed to the elements, and I had to tell the guy who owned the yard, that's my boat, and if you don't let me have it, I'm calling the sheriff because I'm taking it. So there's a little bit of weird history there. That was on the second refinish. The first time I did it, much younger man at the time, and so the wood has to be continuously updated. I've added a current rub rail all the way around. It really looks nice because there wasn't much protection on the gunnel with the original boat. And other than that, it's just the same hull. I think it's so old it's petrified now. But this one, we just take it easy now. I just don't want to abuse her any longer,
When TopCoat's Magnificent Machines returns, we'll go to extremes, starting with a small and slow boat known as a dippy. Then we'll climb aboard a wooden masterpiece with a military and fishing heritage. We're back in a moment.
TopCoat's Magnificent Machines is brought to you by Brothers Truck Parts, your #1 source for 1947 to 87 Chevy and GMC truck restoration. AP Laser, leading the way. And by TopCoat, make life easier.
Welcome back to TopCoat's Magnificent Machines. The Lakewood Yacht Club was founded in 1955, and it's grown large enough to accommodate over 400 boats in its 6 sheds and on its fixed and floating piers. Back in the mid-60s, it even housed astronauts in its cabanas. The crowd here today has plenty to look at, but it's one of the smallest boats that's been one of the most popular.
It is a 1926 disappearing propeller boat, and they were made a couple hours north of Toronto in Port Carling, Ontario. This company here, the Disappearing Propeller Boat Company, started in 1916. So there were a lot of these around before the other boat manufacturers actually got started. But the key thing about this boat is there's a universal joint on the propeller shaft with a handle in the middle, so you can pull the propeller up into the housing in the middle of the boat called the device, which will totally take the propeller out of the water. And so if you run up into, say, shallow water or hit a rock, there's a skeg that hangs down in front of the prop. You'll hit the skeg first, it'll push everything into the middle of the boat, thereby saving the propeller. That's the theory anyway. This company actually made rowboats before they started making power boats, and they kept the oars in there for a good reason. It does row very well if the engine stops. My dad got this early 70s, and it was a wreck, and he started the original restoration when I was entering high school in about 1975. He taught me what to do on the boat, and I just followed his direction and learned about the boats from him. And after he died, I varnished some of his ashes underneath the captain's seat in this boat. So he's now permanently in the boat, so I can't get rid of it. He's going to be always there.
At the other end of the size spectrum, a grand old ship with an amazing history.
The boat's name is Serenity. She's a 1941 Elco 57-foot cruiser. Of course, that's right around World War II, so you can imagine she was actually commissioned by a family by the name of Reynolds to be built. There were only 7 of these 57-footers built by Elco. She was one of them. But very shortly after that, the government seized all of those boats to patrol the east shore of the United States for German U-boats. So she did her part with guns mounted on the front. And then after that, the government sold her for scrap. She went through several owners. and ended up with the folks that we bought her from. Serenity was more of a fishing boat. She was a family boat. So of course she had to be stripped and the varnish redone. A lot of her was painted white on the inside. We stripped all that to find some amazing mahogany underneath. Wood floors, oak wood floors, teak deck, and a galley that was redone in the 60s out of cherry wood. So we tried to strip down to fine wood in every place we could, and then revarnished her. Serenity's history alone attracts all sorts of people. I mean, we've had World War II veterans that have come by and saluted. It's heartwarming to see that. It's why we have the Texas flag on the front and the American flag on the back. 4-year-olds come aboard and they can't wait to go down and see the amazing bunk beds in the cruise quarters because they have dreams perhaps of staying on her one day. So I think all ages and all types of people really enjoy seeing her.
That wraps up this edition of TopCoat's Magnificent Machines. We hope you enjoyed the wide variety of classic wooden boats both on the shore and in the water. Be sure to join us next week when we journey to Florida. We'll discover a collection of over 300 rare, exotic, and muscle cars. You will not want to miss it. So long from Houston.